Hey everybody, hello and welcome. I hope you guys are all having a beautiful day. It's been a while since I've made any videos. I don't know if I'll film this in conjunction with another one, but forgive me, I'm a little awkward behind the camera right now. But I wanted to make a short, simple video just on daffodils because right now is obviously planting time for a wide variety of spring bulbs. But I just wanted to talk about daffodils because I know that a lot of times at stores they sell them individually and you kind of pick your own, and I just want to set you up for success. So, a few things that I want to talk about are A, the perfect daffodil bulb. Okay? I wanted to talk about B, twin daffodil bulbs. C, what I call runt daffodils. And D, what I call aging daffodils. And forgive me, there's a lot of traffic outside. So first thing you're going to want to kind of pick out with your daffodil bulbs just before spring is you want to look and make sure that the packaging is dry, and you're going to want to make sure that there's not a lot of green saprophytic fungus on them. Sometimes they get a little bit of a green coating. This doesn't kill the plant, but it's just not good for the longevity of the plant, just sort of in general. Here's another one that I just wanted to mention. So when you're looking for daffodil bulbs, you want them to be shiny, and you want for these little layers here to be very tight. And what I mean by that is you can see that there's almost stretching, and they have these little striations on them, and they're very firm and hard to peel off. When you're looking for daffodil bulbs, I always say go big or go home. The bigger you go, the more likely you are to get flowers in that season. Daffodils, jonquils, narcissus just in general are very long-lived bulbs from my experience. They tend to come back year after year, and you really just want to make an investment on them. So you want to start off big. Another thing I want to say with daffodils is sometimes in the packaging, in the propagation process, they get a little bit kind of old and scraggly. If you get to pick your bulbs, I would avoid bulbs like this, especially if they're a little thicker on the top and they're missing the bottom part of the scale here. These tend to distinguish quite readily in the soil. They also have lots of open wounds, which kind of allows for rot. And just don't waste your time with these guys either, because they tend to fail after a few years. So on that same sort of theme, I just wanted, that's a coffee bean. I don't know what that's doing there. I wanted to talk about runts. So if you have all of the same variety, you're going to want consistency. Because if you have ones that are smaller than others, and they're in close proximity in an en masse planting, what's going to happen is this little guy here is going to extend his roots and take all the nutrients from this guy here. What'll happen is they support their own. What I mean by that is they produce these bulbils, as seen in this twin, and this guy will support the genetically identical plant. And then you're going to get these guys supporting each other. If it's got a stranger, it might not like its neighbor. It's not going to support it. There's going to be competition. And what's going to happen is this guy's going to go into a vegetative state, probably produce a couple of leaves, and then no flowers for at least the first couple of years. It'll beef up in size, but it'll distinguish itself. Another thing I want to talk about is excess roots. So your bulbs are fresh and ready to plant when the roots are kind of dry and usually trimmed and pretty even, uniform looking. I think they almost look like ramen noodles. That's kind of what you're looking for. If you have too many roots, maybe you got your plants in the clearance section, they might be a little too old, they might be a little bit less viable than what you desire, and you just might have problems with that way. They're just not going to acclimate very well. This is what I was talking about with that saprophytic fungus, by the way. I don't know if you can see, it's kind of grayish, kind of green. You want a little bit of that's fine, but you don't want too much. Another thing is if you get a whole bunch of these, you might think that you're getting a good deal, getting 2 for 1, having these twins, but what's going to happen is instead of producing blooms, this daffodil is just going to put all its energy in making sure that its kin survive, and then you're just going to get a whole lot of leaves. Another thing I want to say is if your daffodils have a little bit of a hook, I know a lot of people get concerned by that. Usually that's fine. It'll right itself if you plant it correctly. Remember, this is always the top. This is always the bottom. This is the basal plate. If you want to divide your bulbs, you can cut them cleanly in half with a knife or what have you, maybe scissors or like a really sharp spade. But you want to make sure that you have a little bit of the basal plate, and you want to make sure that you have a little bit of the top, or else your divisions are not going to come to fruition. They're not going to be viable. So that's just kind of a little basic guide on daffodils. Obviously not sponsored, but this is my favorite mix of daffodils. I get this every year or two. I find that the King Alfred ones, the kind of bold yellow ones, have a lot of staying power in the garden. They can live decades. These guys here are a little bit aromatic, just really beautiful apricot colors. A lot of these multi-bloomed daffodils too. Another thing I want to say is if you're picking daffodil bulbs, you don't want a whole lot of exposed cambium, so you don't want a whole lot of this kind of enamel-y tooth-colored material showing, because that'll rot readily and then kind of dip into the lifespan of the plants. So that's my quick little video on these guys. I'll make more videos in the future, and I just hope y'all are doing really well. Thank you for staying with me. I noticed a lot of comments that were kind of all over the place, a lot of good constructive criticism. I started getting hate comments on this channel on some of my older videos, and I just find that super entertaining. I think it means that I'm getting somewhere with this channel, because you know haters gonna hate. But yeah, let me know if there's any future video topics you'd want. So key takeaways: go big or go home, bigger bulbs, bigger blooms. Try to avoid too many twins in this particular scenario. They tend to derive energy from one another. Top, bottom, make sure there's not too much saprophytic fungus. Make sure your scales aren't falling off. Make sure that you don't have this going on. Make sure that the sheaths are on quite sturdy and quite roughly and tight, to the point where they almost look pulled, if that makes sense. Plant them deeply. You're going to want to plant at least the height of the bulb deep, ideally a little bit more, because rodents actually tend to love these guys. I know people say plant alliums, ornamental onions, and lilies because they say rodents don't go after them as much, but I call BS personally. I've had rodents, namely mice, poach my daffodil bulbs too in times of need. So yeah, have a beautiful, stay blessed. Forgive me if I'm a little awkward with this one, and have a good one.